when somebody would ask me what were my hours, the answer was real simple, all of them. And I remember when I got promoted, I didn't want to lose the job. I was 25 and I was so shocked that I was a manager and I was insecure. And so what I threw at it was hard work. Nobody's going to outwork me. And the more you try and avoid pain, uncertainty, and constant work, the more pain, uncertainty, and work you get. But when you face pain and uncertainty and constant work, you get growth. The reality is 85% of the people need a boss. There's another 5%, you push them a little bit and they're okay. And there's that 2% that are self-starters. You can't build a system around the 2%. Now there's a new frontier, right? The new frontier is AI. And it's a buzzword for a lot of people, but it's more than a buzzword. This is exponentially changing the world. And I've got other guys that I would say are borderline idiots. That every time I ask them to do something, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, if you know what to do, why are you asking me? If you've ever gone whitewater rafting, they call it the rule of the river. The rule of the river is if you pop out of the raft and you're in the river, you have to be a participant in your own rescue. Don't just sit there, help, help. You've got to swim towards them. You've got to be an active participant in your own rescue. I think it's the same with life.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I am so excited to introduce you to this guest. I met Brian Benstock in a clubhouse room during the pandemic. And I got to say, whenever he would say anything, I was always nodding my head. I was taking notes. It just seemed like we were vibing on the same frequency. And I saw so many things in him that I just felt like the world needed to hear. As you all know, I have a background in sales. I led sales teams in the disruptive medical device space for 15 years. I've been out in the coaching space for 5 years. And Benstock has 16 years and counting as the number one Acura and Honda dealership in the United States. Brian Benstock deserves a formal introduction. He's a dynamic general manager and vice president of Paragon Honda and Paragon Acura, which holds the esteemed position as the number one certified Honda and Acura dealerships in the world. Under his visionary leadership, Paragon consistently sets the bar high, selling an astounding 950 cars monthly, or 32 every day. Most recently, in 2023, Paragon Honda was named, again, number one new and certified Honda dealership in the United States. Beyond his professional accolades, Benstock balances life as a devoted husband, father to 5, influential keynote speaker, published author, podcast host, and a beacon of innovation within the automotive realm. His insights and perspectives have garnered appearances with industry giants such as CNN Money, Fox Business, Bloomberg, Automotive News, and the New York Daily News. Internationally hailed for his pioneering approach, Benstock's driving evolution mantra resonates deeply in today's market. His belief took tangible form when he collaborated with Google, leading to the birth of an avant-garde app in the automotive space. This platform empowers car buyers to purchase online, utilize Google Voice technology for service requests, and have their vehicles delivered, all without stepping into a physical dealership. How cool is that? Since its inception in 2017, over 150,000 satisfied customers have benefited from this innovative service. In an industry constantly in flux, Brian emphasizes the need for dealers to optimize productivity and results while adeptly navigating potential pitfalls. His ability to harness technology and data analytics to craft customer-focused solutions is unparalleled. Tracing back to 1982, his impressive journey from a sales consultant to finance manager, general manager, and finally esteemed partner has been marked by continued evolution and growth. Beyond the dealership, Benstock passionately engages with his community. He actively backs esteemed organizations like Sloan Kettering Memorial Cancer Center, Team for Kids, New York Road Runners, and the American Cancer Society. Foundations fighting blindness, the Starlight Foundation, and the HEAS Foundation. A testament to his indomitable spirit, he's also an accomplished marathoner, having conquered over 23 marathons, including the iconic Boston, Chicago, London, and New York marathons. Brian Benstock, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here. Great to see you here on this podcast. How are you?
I am wonderful. I got to say that you are one of my favorite people to follow for a number of reasons. But one of the things that really stands out to me about you is I just feel like you don't have anything to prove to anybody. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel that?
Yeah, it does. I think I'm authentic. I'm a car salesman. We're pretty good at it. I love what we do. I ran into a couple of good people in the industry many years ago, namely my partner, Paul Singer. He passed in 2006, but I think he set, a very good example of what a business person should be, a businessman should be. And, I started with him many, many years ago when I was very impressionable, and I fell in love with the industry. I think it's one of the best kept secrets in business. And I've been in love with the industry ever since. And it's really morphed into something else. It could be cars, it could be commodities, it could be, which it is, it could be anything. I just, I love sales, and we're in a people business, and that's morphed into exercise and development of people, which is really the business that I'm in now today. It's really in the development of people and teams. And, that's really led to the most rewarding part of my life, which is really, I have 500 employees, and watching their journey and watching them grow has been pretty spectacular.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I follow your Instagram journey, and now I found you over on LinkedIn. And I'm curious, why isn't your LinkedIn content over on Instagram? Was that like a purposeful choice? Because there's some really, really good content.
I think LinkedIn is really business, right? And
Yeah,
Instagram is, who I am socially, and I think
yeah,
they're different. There's similarities, right? Obviously, social and business are the same, but I think the LinkedIn is more the business side of who I am and what we do, and working out and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think that belongs on LinkedIn per se. An occasional, hey, this is what we're doing, especially when we're doing it with the team. But and the family stuff and the political stuff, well, that doesn't belong on LinkedIn, in my opinion. That stuff is more for Instagram, and some of the fun stuff that belongs on Instagram, and some of the family stuff that I think that belongs on Facebook. And I think to have the same content on each of the platforms is probably lazy. For
yeah.
somebody to do that, each of those platforms, I think, has a different audience, and if you're going to participate, you should probably have the right message to the right audience at the right time. So we try and do that. I'm an amateur at this stuff. I just do it like kind of as fun, and try and put the right messages in front of people. And we're getting a little bit of a following with true followers. So,
Well, I think your message resonates with a lot of people, and I knew you'd have a purpose behind it. I knew that was all intentional because
yeah.
I think everything you do is very intentional. You had just mentioned a moment ago that Mr. Singer was the role model when you got into business.
Yeah.
What did he teach you when you said he taught you how to be a businessman? What does that look like?
Well, you said a blistering example. His nickname was the Silk Hammer. He was soft spoken, but there was a hammer behind it. Make no mistake about it. He was incredibly disciplined. He's probably the hardest worker I've ever met in my life. When he would work 7 days a week without fail. And so, I started adapting initially 6 days a week a work schedule. And our stores back in the day in 1982 were open 6 days a week. And I was working a normal 5 day a week schedule. And then as I became a manager, I started working 6 days. I remember when I got promoted, I didn't want to lose the job. I was 25, and I was so shocked that I was a manager, and I was insecure, and I didn't have a lot of skills. And so what I threw at it was hard work. I thought, well, nobody's going to outwork me. And I think that came from a background of playing hockey, and I wasn't the best, but I thought I worked really, really hard. I taught myself how to succeed. And I thought I applied that in the automobile business. I wasn't really that skilled, but I did outwork a lot of the people that I was around. And I brought that to becoming a young manager. And certainly if I didn't have the skills, I was going to outwork anybody else that was there. And when somebody would ask me what were my hours, the answer was real simple: all of them. I worked every hour that the store was open, and back in the day, that was 9 to 9 on Monday through Thursday. We were open 9 to 6 on Friday and Saturday, and closed on Sunday. So I worked every hour that the store was open. And for those that knew me back then, they can attest to that. And then when we worked on Sundays, I added that to the schedule. And it was interesting, unfortunate, but my wife and my business partners, Mrs. Singer, when they spoke at my partner's funeral, Mrs. Singer said, she talked to my wife, and she said, my husband used to go in on Sundays, and she said, he said, I have to work on Sundays because the kid, Brian, is at the store. And my wife said,
Mm.
that's crazy because my husband said, I have to go into the store because Mr. Singer's at the store. And we should have gotten together and said, maybe worked every other Sunday. But it was sort of a back and forth, and it was a mutual respect that we had for one another. And we didn't necessarily have to do it, but just being there. The business can be all consuming. And it's not that we don't have other things that are interesting to us or other vocations. But I think if you love what you do, you don't feel like you're working. I love what I do. I really do.
You posted on LinkedIn, hard work ain't getting any easier. It's getting bumpy out there. It is never supposed to be easy. In fact, it's supposed to suck. Clocking in those long hours at work, hitting the gym before the sun ever thinks about coming up, that's you. And I know you read before that too. Yeah, it's brutal, but taking on those tough tasks is crucial for your brain. It decides whether you're going to win or lose. I recently learned that neurosurgeons can physically see if somebody is a quitter or not. When you start a task, the brain forms new neural pathways related to that activity, and it leaves a track on the brain. It's like laying down bricks for the future self to follow. And let me
Yeah.
tell you, this is the time to dig in. This is the time to show your team what you're made of. That's what I'm all about. That's why you're all about the grind. That's why we're up before the world even knows what hit it. It's at times like these when you're being tested. That's when you earn your stripes. Yeah, hard work sucks. And from what I hear right now, it truly does. This is why you train. It turns you into an absolute giant and it sends a very loud and clear message to our brains. We're ready for whatever the future throws our way. How do you train your brain, Brian?
By doing things that suck, but things you don't want to do. And it's you reach a different part there when you do things that you don't necessarily want to do. In fact, the person that I communicated that message to this morning, she's in Australia, and so she's up bright and early. So when I'm communicating that with her, I think it was about a little bit before 4 a.m. My time this morning, I'm dictating to her what's going on in my head. And I said, it's getting bumpy out there. Yesterday my stores did not have a good day retail wise. And so what's going through my head is that, shoot, I got to go to the gym. And I didn't want to go at the particular time I'm going. But wasn't it great? At 4 o'clock in the morning, I get a message from Josiah who says, it's dark out there. I'll see you at 5. And it was 4 o'clock in the morning. He sent me that message. And he's a young salesman who we've been putting through the paces. And Josiah's lost 40 pounds. Josiah ran a marathon. And Josiah is getting himself in some really good shape. And I'm proud to have just even a little bit to do with it. But, that's the influence, I think, and the impact that we're having on some people. And so I think part of the reasons we post and part of the reasons we do stuff is because there are a tribe of people that are following us. I don't give a damn, if you follow. I'm not doing it for you. I'm not even doing it for me. But we got some people that just like, hey, they count on us. And today I was counting on Josiah because that text that I got from him at 4 o'clock in the morning was the text that got me going out a little bit earlier than I was going to go out today. He said, dark and early. And with a picture of a bicep, dark and early at 4:02 a.m. And I'm saying, well, okay, I'll see you at 5. We've got a whole tribe of people that are in our 5 a.m. club. And again,
Mhm.
little book recommendation, The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. It's
Yep.
golden, and you should read it. And of course, the 5 a.m. Club, means we're getting up at 4 a.m. to get ready to be in the gym at 5 a.m. And I can tell you in our little town of Locust Valley at 5 a.m., that gym is packed. If you're ever going to get in a car accident in Locust Valley, it's going to be heading to Firm Athletics at 5 a.m. because it's traffic going to the gym. And, I don't know the net worth of the people that are showing up there, but it's pretty good. And I don't really care about the net worth. They're pretty special people that are getting up for no damn good reason and going to that gym. And the neighborhood's a pretty high-end neighborhood, and each one of those people can afford their own gym in their own house, yet they're going to this little boutique gym and going there and giving themselves a kick in the ass because they know it does something. It builds that pathway. They're doing something that sucks. So as I was dictating to Tima what I want to say, it's supposed to suck. It's not supposed to be easy. And I'm in a position, Chrissy, at this point, I can go to the gym at 9:30 in the morning if I so choose to do so. I can set my own schedule. But somehow the executive workout at 9:30 is not quite the same. And I, I I did go one day last week at about 9 o'clock. And it's a really
How was
different.
that?
It was good. It was really good. There was a neat, and it's a neat group of people. They're tan. They're really rested. They're really neat group that goes to my gym at 9 o'clock. Couple of housewives, moms that have dropped the kids off and did their, and they're there, and they don't work out any less hard. One lawyer dude I know, and man, this guy's wicked successful. So these are not slackers, but he's got the luxury. I tell my wife, when I grow up, I want to be him because he's just like, he's chill. He's completely chill. But for me, it's that grind, that really pushing it in the morning. I think it prepares you to do hard things. It prepares you for the times that are coming, or the times that are here. There's a great Netflix documentary called Stutz, and it's about a psychiatrist named Stutz. And he talks about these things that you can't avoid in life. And one of them is pain, and the other is uncertainty, and the last is constant work. And the more you try and avoid pain, uncertainty, and constant work, the more pain, uncertainty, and work you get. But when you face pain and uncertainty and constant work, you get growth. And so, so choose your pain, choose your difficulty, and I think that's we choose that right now. So, in the automobile business and in business in general, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, right? There's political uncertainty, there's economic uncertainty, and it seems like, wow, when am I ever going to be done working? I said when I was a young man, if I had X amount of dollars in the bank, I'd be set. And I thought if I had X amount of dollars in the bank, and I got to that amount of money, and I was far from set. And I set a new bar. And I get to the point now where I say, am I ever going to be set? Is there ever a number? I don't know that there is. And you come to realize, like that guy Stutz said, it's constant work. And with money comes responsibility. And the more money you have, the more responsibility you have. So I want to respond with ability.
You said some of these people come into the gym and they probably have fancy home gyms, or they could afford fancy home gyms, yourself included, by the way. But why go to the gym? Can you talk a little bit about, what's the benefit of going to the gym? Is it the energy? Is it the vibe? Why is everybody in that gym at 5 a.m.?
1 + 1 = 2, right? And this nonsense of working from home, I think, that's not, that phenomenon is not going on around the world. And I think America is suffering as a result of that. You look at the vacancy rate on office space in Manhattan, it's disgusting. And you're going to see a commercial real estate collapse in the US. You have vacancies in Europe, commercial 1%, 2%, in Japan, 1%, 2%. That's 30, 40, 50% in the US, because we've been tricked into this, I'm going to work from home and it's okay. Employers need to say, hey, no good. No good, not working from home. And there's certain energy, right? Working with other people. I think 1 + 1 = 3. I think when you get two smart people working together, you get a third person produced from that, and teams from that. And again, not everybody. There are certain people that can work on their own. But the reality is, 85% of the people need a boss. There's another 5%, you push them a little bit and they're okay. And there's that 1-2% that are self-starters. You can't build a system around the 1-2%. And I think we're missing out on that, the collaboration that you get when you have a team working together. And so I think it's the same in the gym. If you have a home gym, you're there, the kids are crying, you go upstairs, you get a telephone call, the husband, the wife gets in the way, the dog's there barking and stuff like that. And it's not quite the same. And yeah, I've got a Peloton at home, and I've got one in the gym. Somehow in the gym, it's better. I see somebody there and I'm pedal a little faster. The collaborative effort of training together, I think, is better.
The energy exchange, there's something to be said about that. When you feel it and you feel that energy rise in the competition, and you show up a little differently, you dress a little differently, you act a little differently, you prepare a little differently.
You're with your tribe, right? Yeah, personal trainer for those that can afford it. A coach for those that can afford it. Boxers don't train by themselves; they have a coach. Tiger Woods,
Yeah.
great golfer, and still has a golf coach. Mike Tyson has been boxing for 40 years. He's got a guy he's training with in the gym. All professional athletes have somebody guiding them. And to think that, no, I've got this figured out, I can do it on my own. Well, and we're social creatures. When we're at our best, we're social creatures that interact. We're human beings. That's a verb. It's an action word. We beings, plural, not human beings. So I think there's a good energy that you get when you're around other people.
So Paragon, talk to me about Paragon. When I looked up the word Paragon, it says a person or thing viewed as a role model of excellence. So I'm assuming that's why you picked the name. It's not Paragon, New York, that this is located in.
I inherited the name.
Oh, did you?
My
Okay.
partner had the name Paragon, and I became an employee of Paragon. And a lot of people try telling us about Paragon, then they tell us the name, and a lot of ad agencies said we're going to make a campaign around this. I think we've tried to live up to the name. We have a pretty simple goal here at Paragon. We want to be number one in everything that Honda measures that's good, whether that be volume, gross profit, margins, return to sales, customer satisfaction, innovation, making it easier for people to consume transportation whenever, wherever, and however they want. And that whenever is 24 hours a day, wherever. We'll come to you, you come to us. However, if you want an electric car, you want a gas car, however you want to consume it. If you want to have it in a subscription model, a lease, a cash transaction, a finance transaction, I don't care how you want to consume it. However you want to consume it, we'll serve it to you. A lot of people think that dealers want to do it this way or that way. I don't care how you want to consume the transaction. If you want to consume your transportation through an Uber or a rideshare, we'll provide that to the Uber driver. If you want to consume it through a subscription model because you don't want to make that commitment, we'll provide that for you as well. If you want to lease the vehicle 24 months, 12 months, 36 months, we'll do it that way. If you want to have a long-term ownership option over 84 months, we'll do it that way. I don't think that's the best for anybody, but we'll do it that way. You want to pay cash because you think that's the best way to do it. Well, I don't think that either, but we'll do that. I don't place my thumb on the scale. Whatever's best for the consumer, whenever, wherever, and however. We took that a step further. We applied that to service. We don't think you're necessary in the servicing of your car. And when I say that, you shouldn't have to come to us to service your car. We'll pick up your car, we'll service it, we'll put it back in your driveway.
You do that for all customers, all your clients.
Customers. 100%. If they want, and again, if they want to come to us, that's fine. But we took a look at what was going on. And I had an experience of going to JM Lexus in Florida, and their customer service and their service center, the best I've ever seen. Let me tell you about
where
this.
in Florida is this place?
It's I want to say it's Miami. JM Lexus, gorgeous. They had a second floor customer waiting room that had a bistro in it that would rival any restaurant. They had a theater television screens. They had CNN on the left and Fox on the right. And I understand they had Fox on the left and CNN on the right. And the customers complained that Fox should be on the right. They switched up. They had a putting green. They had lattes and everything else. And I looked, and the customers were as satisfied or as dissatisfied as they were at Paragon. I said, I can't understand why. This is so magnificent, because the customers didn't want to be there. The customers didn't need to be there. And again, nobody in that facility was doing anything wrong. This is not a shot at the people at JM, but it's that everyone's got better things.
They simply just didn't want to be there. They just did not want to complete that to do.
So we started figuring out, how do we solve the problem of the situation without the customers being there? And so we said, hey, why not pick up the customer's car and service it and put it back in the driveway? Right now, you and I are talking, we're not using our car. And for 96% of the time, maybe 97% of the time, we're not using our car. So why don't we use the 97% of the time the consumers are not using their car to service the car, and make better use of the consumer's time, and put everything on the telephone, the communication. We all prefer to text back and forth. We can show you a picture. Hey, here are your tires. Here's what new tires look like. Would you like to buy some? And we can provide incredible transparency at your convenience. You don't have to download an app. There's no app, because we have enough apps on the phone. I mean, how many damn apps do I have on my phone? I don't want another app. Just send you a text. Chris, your car just arrived at the dealership. Chris, your car's up in the air. Chris, we did the oil change. Chris, you need brakes. Look, here's a picture of your brakes. Here's what they're supposed to look like. You got 4 kids. Would you like to buy brakes? They're $120. Yeah.
Perfect. Push the button.
Perfect. Again, you have every opportunity to say no. There's no upsell, no forced sell. But if it's convenient for you, you do it. You say yes. And what we found is the number one reason people don't get that done when they're at the dealership is because it takes time, right? If you drove to my dealership and you were getting an oil change and you waited 45 minutes and we bring the car into the shop, it's another 45 minutes, and someone walks out to you and says, Chris, you need new brakes. You're going to ask 2 questions. What are the 2 questions?
How much and how long is it going to take?
100%. And I asked that question in Amsterdam. I asked the same question in Denmark. Same answers. How much and how long? And you're not going to like either answer. But the reality is here we took the time out of the equation because you're busy doing what you want to do, and we've got the car. And so long as the price is reasonable, and so long as the work is necessary, you'll give us the approval on that. So we're providing a better service experience for the consumer. They don't have to come back and forth. We get it taken care of, and then we deliver the car back to their driveway. And since 2017, it's more than 150,000 that you wrote off. It's about 170,000 transactions. We've generated over $60 million in $60 million in gross profit.
Because you can buy cars in the same capacity, right? Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about now? The partnership with Google. That's a way that I could say, hey, I want to buy XYZ car. If I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, today I'm in Florida. If I said, hey, Brian, I want whatever, can you find me this and get it down here? Could you do it? Was this part of it?
We deliver cars everywhere, and
Yeah, and we just do the financing all over the phone or over text or over something.
Wasn't it wonderful that we had the pipes built for this before COVID came, and we were ahead of the curve. So when COVID came, and New York City, they locked everything down, we were still able to do pretty substantial business with only 4 people in the store. And we didn't make a lot of money, but at least we were able to keep the flow going because we had the infrastructure built. And with salespeople in hazmat suits delivering cars to customers. It was a really strange time in the world.
Speaking of, how did you maintain these numbers and your record of number one through that? Because there was a shortage of vehicles.
I've seen patterns in my life, and we're pretty close with Google, and we were looking at data. I don't make decisions based on my gut. I look at the data, and we were looking at data specifically out of China at that time. China experienced COVID before we did, and the data in China was that people were buying sedans. Right at the beginning of COVID, there was a big return to sedan sales, and it didn't make sense at first. We couldn't understand why, and then it did make sense. It made perfect sense. The safest place to be during COVID was in your house. The second safest place to be was in your car. And so the data said sedans. And a buddy of mine, Andrew Diffendorfer, who's got a data company called Foundation Direct, he said, B, they're buying sedans. You should try and buy as many sedans as you can right now. Now, everybody, all the dealers are getting rid of cars and turning down cars. And I figured if you're going to go bankrupt, it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 cars or 2,000 cars. Bankrupt is bankrupt. So we started buying sedans heavily based on the data. And then it started to make perfect sense why that worked. Where did you not want to be in New York City? Well, you didn't want to be on a subway. You didn't want to be in an Uber. You didn't want to be on a bus and in mass transit, right, during COVID. It's the last place you want to be. So people that were ordinarily taking mass transit were now turning to the automobile. Some, for the first time in many years, we sold people cars that hadn't bought a car in 10 years, 15 years, that were taking mass transit, that said, no way am I getting on a subway. I'm not going to sit next to somebody in a subway car. Hell no. And the car that they were returning to, or the vehicle they were returning to, was a sedan, because sedans are relatively less expensive. Now, over the past 10 years, because most people were looking at SUVs, people just wanted the least expensive transportation that they could get during that period of time, which was the sedan. So we had really good availability. Many of the other dealers didn't have that availability, and that enabled us to get out ahead of everybody else.
True Benstock fashion. How much do you invest in data, in systems, and analyzing? Is that a big piece of your business? Are you analyzing every day?
It's huge. If you walk into Paragon, it looks very much like every other dealership, but there's a lot of data behind the scenes. I would like you to look at it like a Google search box. A Google search box is just a rectangle, and you type in something and it searches. Behind, if you peel that back, there's a lot of spiders and crawlers and all that other stuff. I think Paragon's the same way. We geo target, and we can tell without violating PII information, but we can tell how many people are coming in from searches that we did. When they walk into the dealership, you get a ping. Again, not violating, we don't know who came in, but we know that person saw one of our ads. We know a number. And we can tell based on the analytics that the advertising is working. We know the hand raisers in a particular market so that we can hit them with the right message at the right time. And I think that that's been an advantage for Paragon, and it continues to be an advantage. But you've got to earn your stripes every day. I think Paragon, and I think me personally, I think we got out ahead of a lot of people, but now there's a new frontier, right? The new frontier is AI, and it's a buzzword for a lot of people, but it's more than a buzzword. This is, exponentially changing the world. We're making sure that, and I'm making sure that my young managers, and I say young, it's not an age, but my young-minded managers are really getting out on computer imaging and AI and making sure that we're using AI to find missed opportunities and bring them back into the dealership. And it's bizarre, the opportunities that are there. It's bizarre. And,
Yeah. Are you
Elon
guys
Musk,
capitalizing on them? Are you turning them into
I think
sales?
we are. Yeah, I think we are. We do what's known as, we, um, LCG, the lowest common denominator. We go wide and then we go broad. So service is the lowest common denominator. And so we're looking at that right now using AI for service opportunities. And then once you really understand it, then you can go tall with sales. And so we're looking at the missed opportunities in service, using the AI to contact the service customers and bring them back in. And it's pretty amazing. It's pretty impressive. Our service business has continued to go up. So now from that, we're learning how do we do this with sales, and how do we influence customers to make $30,000, $40,000 visit based on sales? How do we do it to answer phones at night? How do we do it to send out messaging at night? And I've got to be quiet because I don't want to educate everybody on this stuff. And we're learning. I'm going to taking classes at NYU and figuring stuff out. And we've got our ad agency learning how to use computer generated graphics with AI to blow your mind with some stuff. And I think if you're not using it, you're going to be out of business. You're going to be rendered non-competitive. And so use what you learned in digital with AI to reach more people for less money. That's the strategy.
You mentioned that that you don't do things. Well, these particular decisions were not made off of gut instinct. It was made off of data. Is
Yeah.
there any place in your life where you make decisions off of your gut instinct?
Yeah, you use the data to make better decisions, because you and I can look at the data. My experience is going to tell me what to do based on the data. So you still have to have the experience. I think the president of Google said, "In God we trust. All else, bring your data." And so I think you've got to have the data to know what to do. And again, you and I may look at the same data and come up with different conclusions. And I think we've seen that with many things in politics today. Two people look at the same problem and come up with wildly different solutions. And there's probably many different solutions to a problem, but what's the best solution? What's the best solution to solve for the problem? And I think that's where experience comes in. You can call it your gut. I think that it's experience. And for me, I've seen difficulties before, and I think that when everybody's hitting the storm cellar, I think that's where you say, okay, wait a second. If everybody's selling, where's the opportunity? And for me, in that particular time, it was to buy additional inventory based on what was going on someplace else in the world, and understanding that's probably what's going to happen here. And knock on wood, it did.
Good move. I love it. That makes me so excited.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your people. How important are your people? How important is selection of your people? How important is getting rid of them when it's time to get rid of them? Tell me a little bit about the people that make up Paragon.
Especially when things get a little bumpy, like I feel they have right now, the people that haven't put in the work, they stand out like sore thumbs. They don't fit in. And we're seeing this right now. We've made a couple of changes, and we'll continue to make a couple of changes in the personnel. They're the ones walking around complaining. They're the ones that are blaming other people. and the other son of a guns are digging in and doing the work. And so the energy of the people around us. Jack Welch used to call it the four E's: the energy, the enthusiasm, the edge, and the execution. I'm looking for the people with the four E's, and nowhere is there blame in the four E's. Nowhere is there. One of the E's is not excuses, and so we're looking for people that are going to execute. They're going to have the enthusiasm. They're going to just say, okay, let's go. Just keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving, and have the energy and the enthusiasm to talk people through, to push people through, to show people the way. And so that's what I want around me. I want the young Josiahs of the world that are turning me on. It's reciprocal, right? I'm going to get you going. You're going to get me going. And that's reciprocity. I'm going to charge your battery. You charge my battery. For the most part, I'm the guy charging your batteries. But every now and then, like this morning when I'm steeped in the numbers, and I get the text from Josiah, hey, it's early, it's dark, let's go. He's counting on me, and I better show up. And he, by the way, he came from Queens this morning to go to the gym. He drove 20 miles, and all I had to do was drive 1.6 miles. I can show my ass up at the gym on time. He's making the commitment there, and it really sucks for him. It sucked a little for me. It sucked a lot for him, and be there, and that's the motivation. Knowing I got to him, and he ran a half marathon on Sunday, and he had a damn good time, and so that progress really turns me on, and I know I had something to do with that because I was. He said to me a couple of weeks ago, he goes, "The more I train, the more I sell." I said, "It's crazy how that works, isn't it?" And the more I earn, and I said, "The more you learn, the more you earn. So keep learning. It doesn't stop." I'm 63, and the more I learn, the more I earn. It doesn't stop, and that's kind of exciting.
I appreciate and love all of that as well, and like to surround myself with those types of people. You said that spring is a great time to turn the soil.
100%.
From the time you see, Brian, that hey, this is not the right person, and I always ask my clients this: would you hire this person again? And that usually helps them come to the conclusion. It may not be easy to make the transaction. How long do you keep them on from that point forward when you're like, man, she is just not cutting it, or he is just this is not the right person? Maybe they were for a season, they're not anymore. How fast do you move? How fast would you like to move? Because maybe there's legally you can't. I'm not sure how it works in your world.
I'm too slow when
You're
it
too
comes to
slow?
terminal. Yeah, I'm too slow when it comes
Could you, but
to
why do you feel like you're too slow? Do you believe in people too much?
perhaps I think you're impacting someone's life, uh, and I think that you need to be very cautious. I want to be able to look in the mirror and say I gave it everything I could with this person, and I think I blame myself because there's no one person failing. There's multiple people failing. I don't hire somebody for them to fail. I hire everybody with the expectation that we're going to be able to make their life better and they're going to be able to help our company. And so when that doesn't work out, it's not working out on multiple parts, especially somebody that you believed in, and somehow that relationship goes bad. So if I had to critique myself, it'd be a little bit of a negative critique. I hang on too long, and rarely does it work out. And I think for the one or two times it did work out, I still hang on because hey, I remember turning around Joey, and maybe I can turn around Pete. At the end of the day, it's not a critique that I'm ashamed of. I've told people when it comes your turn, you'll be happy that I hung on too long. Because there are people that say, hey, you want those benefits of the doubt when it comes your turn. But when it's time, it's time.
Outside of the four E's, are there any other attributes that you've learned along the way that you're like, you know what, if I were to take my, all the people that stay, yeah, the 1-2%ers, but the other, 85% that are bringing it home for you, what would be like the top 5 attributes that you would think of that are just a non-negotiable for success in your world?
You start out with the basics, right? The basic litmus test. Would you let this person babysit your children? Would you let this person sitting in front of you, would you let him or her babysit your child? And it's such a basic. And in sales, right? In sales, we're hiring a salesperson, let's say, not a mechanic. And if you're going to hire a salesperson, you wouldn't let that person babysit your son or daughter, your young son or daughter, then probably not the person you want to hire. It's the first sting test because if not, then why would you let them talk to your customers? Because that's your first reaction. A lot of the other stuff you can teach. You want enthusiasm. You want somebody that's kind of excited to be there. You want to hire somebody that laughs at your jokes. And the vibe. The vibe's got to be good. You and I have a good vibe. We could work together. Somebody with a different vibe, and doesn't mean your vibe is wrong if it's not. If we don't get the same vibe, but that vibe is really important. You want to be in tune with one another. It doesn't mean you have to have people that are just like you and think like you politically. I don't know what your political affiliation is. I don't care. I don't know what your religion is. I don't care. But the vibe, which is something very different, we can start moving back and forth. And I want people that I can trust and that can trust me. When I tell you to stand on one foot and cluck like this, and that's how we're going to get the sale, you say it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'll try it. And I had a guy, I use that example, Joe Schuster. The guy would listen. He'd say, it doesn't make sense, but I'll try it. And he'd come back and say, hey, it worked. And I use that crazy example. I never asked him to do something crazy like that, but he would just listen first blush. And the guy went on to have an incredibly successful career, and he's a multimillionaire. And I've got other guys that I would say are borderline idiots. That every time I ask them to do something, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, if you know what to do, why are you asking me? Why are you asking me? I got 80 years experience, and you know what to do. Then leave me alone. Just do what you're going to do. And you get really smart people that listen to you, and you get people. No, I think just have to have people that are willing to trust. That the fact that our wallets are connected, and I'm not going to give you advice that's going to hurt your wallet because our wallets are connected. And so again, I look for the gleam in somebody's eyes, the puppy dog. I'm in a good place. We can do business together, and especially in sales. Energy is
Everything.
everything. Yeah,
It's
it's
everything. Yeah,
everything.
yeah. It's amazing how many business owners I talk to, and I say, okay, when they bring me in and say, well, you take a look at these people. Who do I need to keep? Who do I need to go? And I say, okay, well, what are the attributes necessary for, look at their core values. And I say, what are the attributes necessary? And they say, what? And I'm like, oh, what are these are things we can't really change too much, right? So you either had the fire in your belly or you don't. You either have, you either trust or you don't. I can't put trust in this person. But it's interesting, Brian, because I always look at the foundation, and most people that I work with, they like that. And so once we have that, I'm like, okay, now look at your organization. Now, when it's time to hire, let's create some behavioral interviewing questions to flush some of this stuff out. And it's never bulletproof, but at least it's a foundation where we can go, okay, we're pretty damn close because we understand what's important to us. We've articulated it, and now we're interviewing for it, and we're cleaning house because of it too.
Many years ago, there's a restaurant in New York City called Serafina, and there was one. There was this on 60th Street in New York City, and long-haired Italian guy, scarf, Fabio. And I said, Fabio, it's the place. Look at your place. It's crazy. It's packed. He's got a young hostess who's above average beautiful, and the music, and he's selling pizza and wine. And I said, what? It's magic. And he goes, it's the energy. It's the energy. And you realize he's selling pizza at 4 times what a normal pizza pie would cost, and wine at 3 times what. But it's the energy, and the energy sells. And now he's got, I don't know, there's 90 Serafinas, maybe more. They're in Russia. They're everywhere. It's the energy. It's the energy. And he bought the place. He used to lay tile. And he went into this restaurant, Fabulous Sophia's, and he was laying the tile. And he said, hey, maybe I can buy this place from you. And he bought the place, the one place. And he's got 90 of them. It's as crazy as it is. It's the energy. So energy is real important.
Yeah, I love that. I always say your energy is your currency. And if you don't get that, I'm like, man, you're not my people. You don't understand what it's like to be around somebody who just, every time your voice raises, I'm like, shit, let's go do something. But
Yeah.
even when your voice doesn't raise, it's the presence. There's and to do what you do every day. I know you read. I see your Instagram posts. You're having your coffee, you're reading at 3:30 in the morning, then you get your ass in the gym. Most people don't understand that you're studying, you are priming yourself to be able to come in and deliver. And a huge piece of that is just how you show up. Like, what do you need every single day to freaking show up like that? And if
Yeah.
people could just take inventory and go, you know what? I need to go to yoga. That's fine. I need to go hit the gym. I go to Burn Boot Camp. I love it. They high five. They know my name. We work out hard together. I don't got to think about it. Like that's where I'm at 43. But what do you need to be able to set yourself up so you can walk in and influence?
How hard is it to read 10 pages a day? In a subject that'll propel you in the direction you want to go. Don't read my books, read your books. And if you say, I want to go there, read 10 pages a day towards that direction. And in a relatively short period of time, you can be a subject matter expert earning above average wages. Ask the average person selling cars or selling anything, how many books on selling have you read? And the answer is none. So how do you want me to take you seriously? You go to their house, and they got posters of Kobe Bryant and all these athletes, and they're watching the game. Idolize this guy who would practice 6, 7, 8 hours a day every day, and you won't read a book. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace.
Speaking of basketball, I know you and Grover are pals,
We are.
and you don't have to answer this, but do you know what your dark side is, and
Yeah,
are you
I
open
sure
to
do.
sharing it? And how do you channel it for good, for success?
I do know my dark side. It's my best side too. I'm half Puerto Rican, and I think that there's that that side of me that I used to shy away from. It's absolutely my best side there, and but you've got to keep the genie in the bottle. There, you've got to keep that genie in the bottle, but have it burning bright. Have that wheel spinning inside of you, for sure. You've got to be able to control those things. A long time ago, I asked myself, when's the last time I've gone a week without a glass of wine? And I sat there and I couldn't remember. And so I stopped. I just stopped, and that's a good feeling. And my wife went to Turks and Caicos not too long ago, and she said, I like you better when you have a glass of wine. So for the trip, can you have a glass? And I said, yeah, that's fine. That's fair. And I said, sure, no problem. Because, but I just don't want something to control to control me. I've got a wonderful Mick Jagger painting at my apartment in the city, and it says, "Go so long as you can get yourself back," and that's really speaks to controlling your dark side. Go so long as you can get yourself back. And a lot of people go, but they can't get themselves back.
What is success to you, Brian? At the end of the day, how do you define success?
The easy definition is setting a target and hitting the target. Today, for me, it's getting other people to set targets and helping them get there. That's what floats my boat today. It's getting large numbers of people to do things that they didn't think they could do, and then watching them do it, and then having them brag about, look what I did, and just sitting there saying, you did it by yourself, right? And letting them think they did it by themselves, and that's okay. I guess some would call it leading them to discovery. Isn't it magnificent when you take a young man or a young woman and you take them from the receptionist desk, like we did with Helen, and she's making $17 an hour, and she goes to making $20,000 a month in 60 days. That's and she comes to you crying that she paid off all of her mom's debt. That's pretty spectacular. I gave her a book to read, and she read it, and so I test her, because everyone says, "Oh yeah, I read that book. It was a great book. Yeah, what did you like about it?" And when I say test her, I asked her, "What did you like?" And she said, "This part." And I said, "Well, what specifically about?" I was really there on the island of Mauritius when he said he was there. I could see the seashell. I could picture the dark tan. Da, da, da. I'm like, okay, she did. And then I
That's
gave
the
her
person to invest in, right? Yeah, give
yeah,
her
and
another
then I gave
lesson.
her another book to read, and she did the same thing. And then I told the manager, she's ready. Give her a shot. And he gave her a shot. And she had a big smile and great attitude. And she, it's one of those amazing, great car stories. Where somebody goes from 0 to 60 in a relatively short period of time. So I love those stories. We got a million of them.
I love that you have a formula though, because I think for people like you and I, the helper's high is a real thing. And, sometimes, I've had to learn the hard way of who to invest in and who not to invest in. So I love that you have a formula of giving them some assignments and see who actually does the darn work and comes back. I mean, it's not too hard, but that was a life lesson that I had to learn, because you do waste a lot of time with this hope of potential, the thing that you see in them that they just don't ever tap into.
If you've ever gone whitewater rafting, this they call the rule of the river. And the rule of the river, and I've gone whitewater rafting. The rule of the river is if you pop out of the raft and you're in the river, You have to be a participant in your own rescue. Don't just sit there, help, help. You've got to swim towards them. You've got to be a participant, an active participant in your own rescue. I think it's the same with life here. You need help. You've got to be an active participant in your rescue. We give you an assignment. You got to do something. Don't just sit there and say, hey, motivate me. Hey, make me better. I can't make you, not clay. I can't make you better. I can help you, but you've got to be an active participant in your own rescue of life. And I am such a sucker for progress, no matter how slow. But if you're moving along, I'm your guy, man. I am your freaking guy if you're making progress. But if day after day you're making stories and not progress, you're making excuses. I get, hey, this isn't going to work out for you. And sometimes you'll do that, and then they say, "Okay, wait a second. I don't want to lose this guy." They'll come around, but again, if you're not serious about you, how can I take you more serious? I can't be more serious about your success than you are
Yeah.
about your
Yeah.
success, and
Oh, that's $1 million
that's,
advice
that's
there
everywhere
for
in life, right?
it is. No, it really is. Oh, I could talk to you. I could talk to you all day. I'm going to be respectful every time. I have two last questions. So, with respect to your leadership, what would you say your flex is? What is the unique thing that you're like, man, I do this better than anybody? You would never say those words, but I'm going to say those words. What do you think that you're like, this is what makes me unique? This is what makes all this sing together. What's the one thing about your leadership? If you could just say one that is very special and contributes to your overall success.
I'm super insecure. I'm wildly paranoid. I'm looking over my shoulder at all times. I think everybody wants to take what I've got, and I think that they could easily do it. So I make sure that I continue to grow and learn because I know how fragile all this is that we do. So that keeps me in the hunt at all times. And it's not easy to do what I've done for 40 years, but it is easy to do what I do. And so, I that's something I think that is unique. I think there's a lot of bravado, and I think there's a lot of all that stuff. But behind that, I understand that we're dependent. I'm dependent on a lot of things going right, and I have to keep all those balls up in the air. I've got to keep all those things going in the right direction. None of us are independent. This nonsense, self-made men and women. Each of us needs all of us. One of the most true statements that I've ever heard. Jim Rohn said it. Each of us needs all of us. We need a good economy. We need free borders, good judicial system. We need peace in our country. We need a lot of things to come together to do what we do, and we're blessed with that right now. And don't take that for granted. We need health, so I don't take any of that crap for granted. I rely on Honda making great vehicles, and I don't take that for granted either. Paranoia. I think a little paranoia is healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I worked for a robotic company called Intuitive Surgical. There's still no competition. And I was with that company 20 years ago, Brian. We ran like they were on our heels and they weren't anywhere close to being out. We would it seemed like we'd remodel the plane, in air from California to New York and would hit the ground running with a new strategy. And we were constantly pivoting. And I tell you what, they still don't have competition, but I understand what that mindset
A healthy question is, what would you do to put you out of business?
in that company.
No, no. A healthy
Oh, how
question
the
to ask
question asked. Yeah,
is
yeah,
what yourself. What would you do to put you out of business?
yeah.
And,
That's a great
and you
question.
and you best believe your competition's asking that question. So what
Yeah,
would Elon Musk is asking that question on a much bigger scale. What would you do to
yeah.
put you out of business? My great uncle founded Superior Surgical, and they one of their claims to fame, they patented the surgical scalpel, and back in the late '60s, early '70s, and
Damn, that's one hell of a thing to you can't get anywhere without that thing. That's a great thing to
yeah, it was a
damn.
pretty good patent. They owned a bunch of hospitals too for quite some time, but anyhow.
I love that. If people that are listening to this, where can they come to you to buy a car? Where can they follow you to glean
Paragon
some
Honda.
wisdom?
ParagonHonda.com, ParagonAcura.com, WhitePlainsHonda.com, BrianBenstock.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. These podcasts are not to sell cars per se. I like speaking with you. I think it's really exciting to share like-minded people, entrepreneurs, people that are out to help other people. And I love what you do. I think it's great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to share this hour with you and can't wait to talk to you
Great.
again.
Okay.
Thanks,
Look
Brian.
forward to seeing you in person. Okay. Take good care.
Likewise. Bye bye.